Hey everybody. So as you know, in my weekly essays, I always quote a band, an artist, a song. What I've never quoted was the band Kiss. Not a fan. I'm not into hard rock. And their whole makeup, get up, that whole thing that they do, that never interested me. Have zero connection to it. But I came across a piece this past week in the Wall Street Journal about the co-founder, Gene Simmons. And when you look at him and you look at his getup, you would not necessarily think that this man is a paradigm of the mitzvah of kibbud av v'em, of honoring parents. But in the piece that I read about him, it was very, very fascinating, and I'll share it with you. It was in the section in the Wall Street Journal which they call Mansions, which I also refer to as make you feel inadequate about your home section, because they show all these amazing, gorgeous mansions, and it's like, oh, look at my house that I live in. And every week, they call it House Call. They interview an artist. And so this past week was Gene Simmons. And it turns out his mother was a Holocaust survivor. And he starts off by saying, my mother meant everything to me from the time I was little until she died. He was born in Haifa in 1949. And he talks about his parents, his mother, where the Nazis invaded in Hungary in 1944. Her brother and father, the woman's father and brother, were taken away. And then she, his mother, and her mother, the grandmother, were taken to gas chambers. The grandmother was killed right away. And he writes, my mother, 19, was next sent to Ravensbrück, a female slave labor camp. One day she and the others were asked if they could style hair. Those who raised their hands were asked if they spoke German. The ones who said yes were killed. She said no and wound up styling the hair of the commandant's wife. They didn't want her overhearing conversations. 2 more death camps followed before she was liberated by the Americans in 1945. So she goes to Israel and she gets married. And then he writes, and it's so sad, my parents separated when I was six. My father was a dreamer. One day we went looking for him. At a movie theater, I spotted him. He was with a blonde woman. My parents divorced. And then he goes into, so the mother ends up moving to New York. And he goes into how he helped out 12 years old. And the title of this is, Before Kiss, he made money schlepping meat at a butcher. At 12, I went to work to make my mom's life easier. A little tzaddik, this kid. I was a butcher's assistant, lugging heavy meat up from the basement. I also delivered newspapers and had other part-time jobs. I contributed nearly $30 a week. And then the next part of the article talks about his becoming a famous band and such. And I love this part, where they finally, in 1972, we found a drummer, a lead guitarist, and they got the name Kiss to the band. By then, we lived in a rundown Manhattan loft. We wanted to look different, and Woolworths was 2 blocks away. We bought clown makeup there, and Kiss was on its way. No grand marketing scheme, no spending all this money. They went to Woolworths, they got clown makeup, they put it on, and that's how they became the signature band that they became. And he talks about they own 6 homes, we'll get to that in a second. And then at the very end, he writes about his father and mother again. My father married multiple times, but my mother made more than 25 trips to Israel to visit him and bring him cash. He was her first true love. Though I didn't answer my father's letters, I felt responsible. I bought him a house in Israel and sent money, but that was it. I never forgave him for leaving us and hurting my mother. I mean, look at what this man does, how he stuck with his mother and everything he did for him, even at such a very, very young age. And even his father, who abandoned them, he still felt some sense of responsibility and connection that he should do something. He buys him a house in Israel. That's what the mitzvah of kibbud av v'em is. It talks about, the rabbis talk about, if your parents are rashayim, they're evil and they're not good, are you still obligated? It's a difference of opinion. But here is such an unbelievable example of you can't judge a book by its cover. Because you look at him, and for all my years, I looked at this person like, I'm not interested in this guy. I'm not interested in his music. It's just like looks crass and has no connection. But then you find out about the person, and he's a real tzaddik, a real righteous person in many ways, in terms of how he treats his mother and even how he treats his father, despite how he was treated by him. And so, once again, you can't judge a book by its cover. Just one last thing. They mentioned they had 6 houses. And one of the questions they asked him is, which is your favorite house? And he answers, houses and stuff in them don't matter to me. You'd have to ask Shannon, his wife. Happy wife, happy life. Can't judge a book by its cover. You see the outward appearance of a person. It doesn't tell you anything about what their neshama is, what their soul is. Gene Simmons, the co-founder of the band Kiss, son of a Holocaust survivor, shows us that lesson. Have a good Shabbat.